Are you selling your home? Here's the one word that will save you thousands. Protect your sanity and present disaster. No. That's right. No is your best friend. Today, we are diving into 15 wild, weird, and just downright crazy situations where saying no isn't just okay, it's necessary. And trust me, these tips might just save your sale, and more importantly, your sanity. So grab a drink, settle in, and let's talk about why saying no in real estate can be the most profitable and powerful thing that you can do. Oh, and stay to the end because I've got a bonus tip you absolutely do not want to miss. So you've got the for sale sign in the yard and you're feeling pretty good. Then you hear a knock at the door and you find there's a random buyer standing at your front door. And they say, "Hey, I just want to take a quick peek inside. You're not gonna mind, are you?" Sounds innocent. You've got a buyer there. You're thinking, you know what? It's gonna be quick. I want to make a sale. That is wrong. No, nope, not gonna happen. Shut that door faster than a kid you find stealing cookies out of the cookie jar. And here's why you're gonna shut that door. You don't know if they're a real buyer or if they're just a tire kicker wasting your time. You don't know if they're there to case your house to steal from you while you're gone, if they're looking for your security or easy access points into your home. And honestly, you don't owe them or anyone an unscheduled tour of your home. Just say no. Let your agent handle the showing. It's safer, smarter, and way less stressful. So this actually happened to a client of mine. A buyer showed up at the property, husband and wife. The sellers let them into the home. The wife said, "Hey, do you mind if I use your restroom?" They thought nothing of it. They went ahead and continued the tour with the husband. Tour ended fairly fast, and then they realized a couple days later that they were missing jewelry. Don't take the risk. Let your agent handle the showings. Just say no. Next up is the buyer who says, "Hey, I just want to see if my truck or car can fit in your garage." No, this actually happens more than you can imagine. Just one wrong move and your garage looks like the demolition derby. Can you imagine explaining that to your insurance company? I know a seller who actually let a buyer try to see if their truck was going to fit in the garage because it was one of those long extended trucks. Well, of course, they scratched the garage. And the buyer swears it wasn't them. The seller says they know it wasn't them. That was not a fun situation. And you just don't want that drama. I had another situation in which the buyer wanted to know if their boat would fit into the garage because the HOA did not allow boats to be parked in the driveway or the front yard. They got the boat in all right, but they couldn't get the boat out. Uncomfortable getting that boat out, so they actually had to call a tow company to come and get the boat out of the garage. That was fun having the neighbors come by and watch that fiasco. Let's talk about showings. Sometimes buyers think that it's a great idea to bring their pet. No, I know it sounds heartless, but stay with me. Look, I love pets as much as anybody else. I've got 5 dogs and a cat, but I don't bring them to showings because you know what? They sometimes have accidents in homes. Yeah, I know, imagine that your animal would do that, but I know yours would. It's overall a bad idea. A lot of pets are gonna mark their territory. And yes, that means even your cute golden doodle. Some sellers actually have allergies, and cleaning up after a pet is no fun. I know of a situation where a buyer brought their dog in those cute little doggy strollers to a showing, thought everything was fine, said they're gonna be fine in the pet stroller while they went upstairs to look at the upstairs. During that time, the dog had jumped out of the stroller, had gone into the primary bathroom, taken a large dump in there. Nobody knew about it until the seller came home. Imagine that surprise. Okay, this one's a doozy. The buyer says, "Can I bring by my contractor and go ahead and have them start painting the house before we move in? Because we just want to be able to move right in after closing, and we'd really like to have a different paint color." Nothing good is going to come out of this. One, you have a liability issue. What if their painter doesn't have insurance? What if their painter falls and gets hurt? What if their painter spills the paint all over the furniture and the floor? Who's going to pay to clean that up? Number 2, what if the contractor that came in to do something says, you know what, did you look at this issue over here? May not be an issue, maybe it is an issue, but it's something you don't want to have to deal with, especially if you're already outside of the contingency. And last, what if the buyer changes their mind? What if you've gone ahead and let them paint that wall bright blue and then right before closing they decide not to close? Do you think that you're really going to get them to come back in and paint that wall back to its original color? I don't see that happening. We actually had a situation in which the seller did let the buyer come in and start painting against our professional advice. And you know what happened? The painter spilled paint all over the seller's antique rug. The painter didn't have the money to pay for that rug. The buyer wasn't going to pay for the rug. It completely derailed the entire sale. So just say no, hand over the keys at the time of closing, and let them go ahead and take care of that when they move in. This one always makes me cringe. When the buyer says, hey, can we move in early? No. And in case you didn't hear me, let me say it again. Absolutely not. I understand. The buyer might be in a tough situation and it's gonna pull at your heartstrings, and you're not mean, but let me tell you from experience, that one is a hard no. I have had situations where the seller let the buyer move in because that was going to be the only way the deal was going to go forward. And guess what? The deal didn't go forward and the buyer didn't want to move out. That was a very expensive eviction process, plus they lost time on the market. We've also seen situations where the buyers say, I'm going to take great care of your house. And guess what? They didn't. They marked it up, they made a lot of changes, and then when it came time for closing, the buyer's financing fell through and they moved out. So save your sanity and just say no. Now this one's the most tricky of all the situations. Your aunt, your uncle, your mom, your dad, your neighbor next door, they just happen to be a realtor, and of course they want to represent you. You feel bad saying no, but here's the thing. Selling a house is a big deal. Do you really want to risk letting Aunt Sue, who just got her license last week, manage your six-figure transaction? I have seen way too many situations where a friend agent missed a crucial part of a contract, costing the seller thousands of dollars, and that hurts. Unless that family member or friend has training in your area, in your market, in your price point, and a lot of transactions recently behind them, kindly say no. They might get upset, and if they're your friend, they will get over it, and your wallet will thank you. And this one's always tricky. When the buyer is asking for some of the furniture inside, maybe the patio furniture, might even want your riding lawnmower, for this, I say no. Personal property is not part of the contract. And I've seen it actually make a deal go sideways because they start fighting over a chair, or they forget what they did or didn't include. And the most recent was when the sellers agreed to leave specific furniture, forgot that they said that they were going to do that, and at the time of the closing and walkthrough, the buyers came through and found out half of it was gone and refused to close. And this one is a hard no. This one is my personal favorite. The lowball offers. Whenever I see them come across, I go ahead and tell you, no. The answer is absolutely not. Not even close. May not even reply with an answer because that's the answer. No. Many times we'll see that offer where a buyer says, you know, we're going to offer $100,000 off the list price because it doesn't have a pool, and we'd like to have granite countertops, and we definitely would love to see wood floors in here because it doesn't have it. We're just going to take $100,000 off. No. So here's the thing. When we see buyers submit lowball offers, it always comes with some sort of justification. And guess what? That's not your problem. Your home was priced on its current condition and in relation to past sales in your market. We just saw an offer recently. It was for $75,000 off the list price, and the buyer had all these reasons why they needed to have it off there. They wanted that pool, they wanted the updated countertops, they wanted that new flooring. And guess what? All the other houses in that neighborhood, same age, same condition, same price point, and the seller just said no and got an offer 2 weeks later for full price. Price your home fairly, and when lowball offers come knocking, just stand your ground. Let them go find the fixer-uppers someplace else. Long closing deadlines, that's absolutely something you should say no to. We normally see 30 days as a customary timeline for closing, but it's not uncommon to see 45. It may not sound like a long time, but when you're selling your house, 45 days can seem like an eternity. So when buyers are asking for 60, 90, over 100 days for closing, that's a no. Long closing deadlines are very risky. During that period of time, the buyer's financing might fall through. And gosh forbid they actually get into a car accident and then they're not with us for the day of closing. Market conditions can change, the interest rates are all over the place, and the buyer could decide to back out and just walk away from their escrow. The longer the deal drags on, the greater the risk of it not closing. A seller we were working with agreed to a 90-day closing. At day 80, the buyer lost their job and was unable to close. And the seller had lost all that time on the market and had to start all over again. So for this one, no. So keep it short and sweet. 30 to 45 days should be enough time. And if they need longer, no. Here's one that always gets me. During the inspection period, a buyer will say, we're gonna need for you to paint those walls. I don't like the color. Or the countertops, I don't like brown. I want you to replace them with a beautiful granite. So here's the thing. This is what the house looked like when that buyer made an offer. It hasn't changed, and it was priced accordingly to take those things into consideration. And these requests are not a safety issue. These frivolous requests are the ultimate time wasters. As a seller, you are responsible for safety and functionality, but not to decorate to the buyer's taste. It's reasonable to fix a request where they say the plumbing is leaking or the outlets aren't working. It's frivolous when the buyer says, I'd like for you to repaint the walls, I'd like for you to redo the flooring and that landscaping in the front yard. Let's have you take care of that too. Many times when I see this happen, you just say no, and oftentimes the buyers move forward anyway because they already saw it, they like the house, they just want to see how far they can push you. And for me, this is a big one. If a buyer submits an offer without a pre-approval letter or proof of funds, that is absolutely a deal breaker. Do not pass go, do not go forward. It's just not gonna go anywhere. Without that proof of financing, you could wait weeks negotiating back and forth for something that's never gonna get to the closing table. Serious buyers, they always have their pre-approval letter or their proof of funds. They don't expect you just to trust them on their name or their word. You don't know who they are. And for my people, I always vet that letter. Just getting a piece of document, I could put that together on my computer right now. Whenever I get a pre-approval letter or proof of funds, I will call the name on that letter and I will verify that that's a good letter. The other thing I will do is I will also look them up on Google because again, I can create that document and just have you call my best friend who of course is going to vouch for me. So I say no, you got to get the pre-approval letter, submit it with your offer, then we can start negotiating. Until then, don't waste your time. The answer is just no. I understand that right now it's a little bit of a buyer's market, so this is something that we're seeing that you should say no to. And that's the free upgrades, where buyers are coming in and they're saying, I'd like for you to remodel the bathroom, and while you're at it, will you go ahead and change out the HVAC and update the plumbing? It'd be nice. Oftentimes, buyers in this situation see sellers as their free contractors, and they want them to get the job done during the contract period so that buyers can move right into the home and it's all complete. The answer here is no. It was priced accordingly based on its current condition. And the buyer can take care of all that right after closing. This one's dangerous and you absolutely want to say no to this one. And this is unreasonable contingencies. The one that we just saw was when the buyer came in and said, I absolutely love this home and we are gonna pay full price and we're not gonna ask for anything. And I thought, okay, this is too good to be true. So what's the catch? Well, the catch was the buyers had a house that they had to sell in order to purchase this home. Problem was, that house wasn't even on the market. So no, the answer to that is no. You as a seller do not want to take an offer on a property where they have to sell their property in order to purchase yours and theirs isn't even on the market. So unreasonable contingencies like that, that's an absolute no. This one that you should say no to, I was actually quite shocked when I heard it the first time, but then I started hearing it more and more. Still, the answer is no. When a buyer says, you know what, we'd like to have your house for the weekend. You can go someplace else and we're gonna live and move into your house for a weekend or a week, or we wanna throw a party here so we can kind of see what this house is like and make sure it's a good vibe or a good fit. I can't even imagine, first of all, but the answer is no. That is just going to lead to so many problems. And if that ever comes up, no, you can find out whatever you need to find out about the house during the inspection period. You can come and see it during the inspection period, but moving in and living there for a day or a week or throwing a party there to get a feel, I say no. Don't forget, I got a bonus tip coming at the end. Listen, I know that selling your house is stressful and I'm here to help you. Check the description below for some links on tips to help you selling your home. If you made it this far and we haven't met, I'm Tammy Broxson. I serve the Gainesville, Tampa, Orlando, and Ocala areas. And yes, you can hire me. But this video is made to help buyers and sellers have knowledge and a competitive edge in today's changing market. Remember, every market is different. You want to know what's customary in your market and how to navigate the different and sometimes complex situations. On to the next one. Sometimes you get it in your gut that you know something just doesn't feel right. Trust your gut. We had a seller who felt really uneasy about a buyer who became very aggressive about getting the property under contract, but they didn't have any documentation, they didn't have a pre-approval letter, and the seller trusted their gut and just said no. We came to find out that this buyer actually had a habit of getting properties under contract and then holding it hostage during the inspection period, trying to renegotiate the terms downward using the inspection report to say, well, you know, and all those things that we talked about before. So trust your gut, and if it doesn't feel good, just say no. Saying no in real estate is absolutely okay, and many times it's absolutely critical. Selling your home doesn't require you to be a people pleaser or a doormat. Saying no when necessary protects your time, your money, and your sanity. Use these tips and you'll be a more confident and empowered seller. Now, that bonus tip that I promised you, here it is, just because I like you. Contingencies oftentimes are part of the deal. But here is the golden rule. Never agree to one without a solid backup plan. What do I mean by this? Let's go back to that plan where the buyer needs to sell their house before they can purchase your house. We do see that quite a bit, but here's what you want to do. Before you accept that offer, you want to make sure that that buyer has their house on the market, it's actually under contract, and it's to the point that the contingencies are removed in the contract, so it should be very smooth closing. And you'll want to have in there what we call a kick-out clause, so that if something goes wrong and the closing gets delayed and somebody else comes in and says, hey, I want to buy your house, maybe they're offering more money, maybe they're going to be able to close sooner, you at least have the option to look at that offer. Whereas if they're not even under contract, you could be stuck. The bottom line is contingencies are fine as long as you protect yourself. If the buyer doesn't like that, just say no. There's another property that they can tie up and waste their time. Have you gotten a wild buyer request when you were selling your house? I always think that I've heard them all, but then I get the comments and I know I haven't. So comment below and let me know your wild buyer story. Maybe I'll use it in my future video. If you found this video helpful or even mildly entertaining, share it with somebody you know who's about to go through the selling process. You don't know, they might need it. So sell smart, say no when necessary. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.